The film opens with a scene of four mafia members gathered behind their headquarters. They are busy packing drugs to be sent to another city, cleverly concealed inside watermelons. Meanwhile, at the front of the building, a sniper named Harper takes aim at one of the guards and successfully takes him down. Soon, Harper's team storms the building, eliminating everyone in their path. On the other side of the building, the mafia members packing the drugs hear faint noises but remain unaware of what's truly happening. Sensing something is off, one of them tries to contact the guards but receives no response. Moments later, the lights suddenly go out, and when the emergency lights flicker on, chaos erupts. A fierce battle breaks out, and Harper's team quickly gains the upper hand, leaving only one survivor. It's revealed that Harper's group is led by a former officer named Andy, who confronts the last man, holding up a photo and demanding to know if he recognizes the person in it. The truth finally comes to light. Andy and his team have attacked the mafia headquarters to find the person responsible for killing Andy's daughter. The terrified man, hoping for mercy, provides the information Andy seeks. Andy then discovers a massive stash of cash and orders his team to take it. As for the mafia headquarters, Andy decides to burn it to the ground. The scene then shifts to 9 days earlier, showing Andy waking up in his secluded home, where he lives alone. After showering and having breakfast, he heads to his job at a hardware store. At that moment, Andy is visibly distracted, lost in thought as he serves customers. His lack of focus doesn't go unnoticed, and he is called into his boss's office yet again. His boss reprimands him for his unprofessional behavior, warning that if Andy doesn't improve, he'll have no choice but to fire him. Andy remains silent, acknowledging his mistakes and accepting that he won't be paid for the month. The next day, on his day off, Andy visits his psychiatrist, as he does every week. The doctor asks how he's doing and if he's feeling any better. Andy replies that he's doing better, though he still finds himself haunted by memories of the past, which often cause him to lose focus. Not only that, Andy also mentions being scolded by his boss again for daydreaming at work. It's then revealed that Andy is a former Marine officer who served in Afghanistan. During his time there, he was responsible for a unit of 20 soldiers, but in a devastating battle, all but 4 of them, including Andy, were killed. Since that traumatic event, Andy's mental health has been unstable, requiring him to attend weekly therapy sessions. On the other hand, a young woman named Rachel is seen arguing with her mother. Her mother urges Rachel not to go out so often, insisting it's not proper for a girl her age. Rachel fires back, saying she's 18 and has the right to live her life as she chooses. She explains that she only goes out once every 2 weeks, which she believes is perfectly reasonable. Rachel's mother, tired of arguing, reluctantly agrees but insists that her daughter to always careful whenever she leaves the house. Outside, Rachel's boyfriend, Cassius, is waiting for her. Before they leave, Cassius tells Rachel that he'll be away for a week and won't be bringing his phone. This upsets Rachel, as Cassius has always been her constant companion, even if only over the phone. It's revealed that Cassius works as a drug courier, and Rachel is fully aware of his job. Cassius then invites Rachel to come with him to pick up the package he'll be delivering the next day. Unexpectedly, the package had already been prepared by Cassius's associate, a man named Harry. At that moment, Harry casually asked if Cassius and Rachel were planning to go out for a stroll, and Cassius confirmed. That evening, after enjoying their time together, Cassius visited one of his college friends, Bruno, who lived not far from Harry's place. Bruno was hosting a party, and Cassius and Rachel quickly joined in. 30 minutes later, Cassius received a call from Harry, who demanded that he deliver the illegal package immediately. Reluctantly, Cassius apologized to Rachel for having to leave abruptly and not being able to take her home. Before leaving, he asked Bruno to look after Rachel and ensure she got home safely once the party was over. Not long after, Rachel was seen heading upstairs. It turned out that some of Cassius's female friends had invited her to try a new type of drug. At first, Rachel refused, as she had never used drugs before. But after persistent persuasion, she reluctantly gave in. Moments after taking the drug, Rachel suddenly felt a tightness in her chest and overdosed. Tragically, she passed away and was soon prepared for burial. It was then revealed that Rachel was the biological daughter of Andy, the former Marine officer. After the funeral, Andy sat in deep thought until his ex-wife and Rachel's mother, Ava, approached him. Ava informed Andy that the last time Rachel had gone out, she had been with her boyfriend. Apparently, the reason Andy and Ava had separated was due to his unstable mental state after the war, which led him to choose a life of isolation. In the end, Andy entered Rachel's room to reminisce before heading back home. However, at that moment, Andy noticed Rachel's phone, which had just received a message from her boyfriend, Cassius. Unaware of her passing, Cassius asked Rachel to meet him at Harry's place later that night. Realizing that Harry was a drug dealer, Andy quickly returned home, grabbed a nail gun, and headed to Harry's location. Andy was determined to take down the drug trade, as it had cost him the life of his only daughter. Meanwhile, Cassius arrived at Harry's house, excited to receive his payment for delivering the package. However, Harry and Bruno broke the news to him that Rachel had died at the party from an overdose. Enraged, Cassius lashed out at Bruno, demanding to know why Rachel had been given drugs when she had never used them before. Bruno apologized, explaining that he had been out buying food when it happened. Overwhelmed with frustration, Cassius stormed out of Harry's house. As he left, Andy arrived and briefly crossed paths with Cassius, though he didn't recognize him. Once inside Harry's house, Andy wasted no time in taking down everyone in his path. At one point, he managed to seize a gun from one of Harry's henchmen. He then made his way to the main room, where he swiftly eliminated Cassius's college friend, Bruno, and cornered Harry. Andy demanded to know where Cassius was, and Harry revealed that Cassius had just left. However, at that moment, one of Harry's men grabbed Andy from behind. In response, Harry quickly picked up the fallen gun, ready to finish Andy off. But just as he was about to pull the trigger, someone intervened, taking out Harry and his remaining henchmen. The rescuer turned out to be Smudge, a former subordinate of Andy's from his military days. As Smudge drove Andy home, he couldn't help but ask how Andy had ended up at Harry's place. Andy explained that he was searching for a man named Cassius, and in the process, was determined to dismantle the city's drug trade. Andy then turned the question on Smudge, wondering how he'd found him. Smudge recounted how, just hours earlier, he'd gone to Andy's home to offer his condolences for the death of Rachel. But Andy wasn't there. Instead, Smudge found a note with Harry's address, leading him to the rescue. Before Andy exited the car, Smudge suggested they grab a drink together the following evening at a local cafe. The next night, Andy received a call from Ava, who asked if he had their daughter's phone. Andy confirmed, then asked if Ava wanted it back. Ava replied that she didn't care about the phone. She wanted Andy to come home. Andy assured her that he would, someday, hoping they could rebuild their family. Shortly after, Andy headed to the cafe to meet Smudge, as promised. There, he ran into Harper, a former military subordinate, who expressed his condolences for Rachel's death and offered his support in whatever Andy might need. Soon after, Smudge arrived with a mutual friend, and the four men reminisced about their time together in Afghanistan, as they were the only survivors of their unit. Harper confessed that he'd been haunted by a memory from the war, a moment when he had to choose between neutralizing a child or risking the lives of his comrades. The child had kept approaching, forcing Harper to make an impossible choice. After sharing their past, the men decided to play a game of pool. However, Andy's silence prompted his former subordinates to ask what he truly desired. At that moment, Andy revealed his mission to eradicate the city's drug problem, including taking down Cassius. As a result, the three men were thrilled at the prospect of working alongside Andy once more. On the other hand, Cassius is seen sat alone in a restaurant, consumed by guilt. He believed that if he had been there for Rachel, she might still be alive. At one moment, Cassius resolved to apologize to her parents as soon as possible. However, a group of thugs suddenly confronted him. In no mood for a fight, Cassius tried to leave, but the thugs followed him outside, spoiling for a brawl. Just as things were about to escalate, a car pulled up, and a young woman emerged, telling Cassius that he shouldn't waste his time on such men. As they drove away, she expressed her condolences for Rachel's death. Cassius asked why she was helping him. The woman explained that she was sent by his father, who wanted to see him. The scene shifts to Andy, who is being driven by Harper to purchase weapons. Before getting out of the car, Harper mentions that the gun seller has close ties to the drug lord who controls the East region. Soon after, Andy meets with the gun seller and, without hesitation, hands over a substantial amount of cash. The seller inquires about Andy's intentions with the weapons. Unexpectedly, Andy reveals his plan to attack the East Region drug lord in order to eradicate the drug trade. After Andy departs, the gun seller immediately attempts to contact the drug lord to inform him of the situation. However, before the call connects, Andy suddenly reappears and launches an assault. Andy demands to know the location of the drug lord's headquarters. With no other option, the seller reluctantly provides the information. At the same time, a bodyguard attempts to intervene, but is swiftly neutralized by Harper. Harper then requests Andy's knife, as he intends to finish off the gun seller himself. On the other hand, Cassius and the woman pull up near a convenience store. The woman plans to buy some food, as she's only had bread for breakfast. However, as soon as she enters the store, someone follows her inside. Cassius immediately exits the car, and a shootout ensues within the convenience store. Fortunately, both Cassius and the woman manage to escape unharmed, although the woman sustains a leg injury. Just as they are about to get back into their car, they are ambushed and captured by a group of men. In the end, Cassius and the woman are taken to a mine and brought before the East Region drug lord. It turns out that the men who apprehended them were the drug lord's henchmen. The drug lord explains that he has captured the woman because she infiltrated his factory and contaminated the merchandise with poison. This resulted in the deaths of many of the drug lord's customers, including Rachel. Cassius is visibly shocked and demands to know who ordered the woman to do this. In response, the woman reveals that she was acting on the orders of Cassius's own father. Moments later, as the woman and Cassius are about to be executed, the East Region Mafia group comes under attack. One by one, the Mafia members are taken down. The assailants are none other than Andy and his 3 comrades. During the chaos, Cassius manages to get into a car and escape. Andy, determined not to let Cassius get away, fires several shots at the vehicle, but his attempts are unsuccessful. Shortly after, Andy and his team ultimately win the battle. At that moment, Harper approaches a surviving Mafia member and inquires about the biggest drug trafficker in the region. The man reveals that a man named Lucian is the most powerful drug lord and that his headquarters are located at the edge of the city. The scene then shifts to Cassius, who is now at a lavish mansion. Moments later, a bald man emerges to greet him. It is revealed that this man is Lucian, the wealthy businessman, and that Cassius is his son. Apparently, Cassius has been estranged from his father for years, leading him to leave home and live a solitary life, working as a courier for low-level dealers to make ends meet. That night, Andy and his 3 comrades arrive at Lucian's drug manufacturing facility. They waste no time in eliminating Lucian's henchmen one by one, and this is the scene that was shown at the beginning of the story. Not long after, Andy's team swiftly neutralized Lucian's forces, leaving only one survivor. Andy then interrogated the man about Lucian's whereabouts and the location of his son, Cassius. Hoping for mercy, the man readily revealed the information. The following day, Lucian informed Cassius that their headquarters had been destroyed by Andy's men. Cassius was secretly pleased, as he disapproved of his father's drug trafficking activities. As a result, Lucian declared that he had dispatched all his remaining forces to eliminate Andy. Meanwhile, Andy, who had just woken up, immediately planning to raid Lucian's mansion with his team that very night. However, their plans were interrupted by a phone call from Ava. During the call, Ava was terrified, as a group of men were trying to kidnap her. At that moment, Andy immediately realized that they must be Lucian's men. Sure enough, their house suddenly attacked. Fortunately, Andy's 3 companions arrived just in time to help. In response, Andy and his team quickly geared up and set out to rescue Ava. As they drove, several cars began to pursue them. At one moment, Andy's car was forced to stop and the enemy cautiously approached. But Andy and his team had cleverly concealed themselves behind the vehicle. During the chase, Andy learned that Ava had been abducted and they needed to rescue her immediately. They tracked her to an abandoned building, but they were ambushed from both sides by Lucian's numerous henchmen. Under heavy fire, Andy ordered his 3 companions to take cover inside the building. However, this turned out to be a trap, as Lucian's men had surrounded the building. With no other option, Andy's team split up and systematically eliminated Lucian's men one by one. Shortly after, Harper managed to corner a lone enemy and was about to finish him off. But Andy stopped him, as this man was the last of Lucian's men. Harper then questioned him about Ava's whereabouts. Unfortunately, the man swore he didn't know, claiming that only Lucian knew her location. Frustrated, Harper killed the man. That evening, Lucian received word that his entire crew had been wiped out by Andy's forces, a mere 4 men. Fearing Andy's imminent arrival, Lucian resolved to flee the country, intending to take Cassius with him, who was in the car behind. However, as they were about to depart, Cassius witnessed his father's guards being brutally slain by Andy's men. Soon after, Andy approached Lucian's car, swiftly drawing a gun and pointing it at him. At that moment, he demanded to know Ava's whereabouts. Lucian, in a desperate plea, offered the information in exchange for Andy's promise not to harm his son, Cassius. He explained that Cassius held deep affection for Rachel and had never intended to cause her any harm. In the end, Andy agreed to the terms. Once Lucian revealed Ava's location, Andy coldly executed him. True to his word, Andy released Cassius and rejoined his comrades who were waiting nearby. Several days later, Andy gathered with his team. He announced that he and Ava had reconciled and were now living together. He expressed his gratitude to his companions for their unwavering support. The 4 men, now bound by shared experiences, vowed to remain united and protect each other. As Andy's 3 associates departed, Cassius emerged from the shadows, gun in hand. Consumed by vengeance for his father's death, Cassius shot Andy. 15 minutes later, medical personnel arrived at the scene, only to find that Andy had survived the attack. The end. Moral lesson from the story: daydreaming at work might get you fired, but at least it prepares you for a career as a highly motivated, albeit slightly distracted, vigilante.